Kai Cole is qualified for the Olympic trials in two separate events after running the races of his life at the MEAC championship. Oh, yeah, it's locked on HBCU. Play my music.
You are Locked On HBCU, your daily podcast covering HBCU sports. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, family? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On HBCU podcast, your number one daily one-stop shop for everything HBCU athletics, Monday through Friday, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And I, of course, am Darian Gray, a.k.a. the Mouth of the South, Texas Southern alum and former TSU Herald Sports editor and current contributing writer at USA Today's Saints Wire. Thank you for going on this journey with me. Make it Locked On HBCU your first listen of the day every day. And remember, just because the mic cuts off does not mean that the journey is over. Just means it's time to follow me on Twitter at South Exclusives. Starts with an S and ends with an S. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. And these days, every potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. And that's why LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right candidates for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions do apply. We'll wrap up with today's episode looking at rookie minicamps. This is arguably the most important part of the NFL offseason for all of our HBCU prospects from this last draft cycle. Prior to that, we'll look at the Black College World Series and how Bluefield State has claimed their second championship in 4 tries. But we kick off today's episode with Norfolk State's Kai Cole. This man has been on fire since his D3 days. So you know this is somebody who's been working for a long time, and it kind of culminated in the moment of his life, which is being able to try out for the Olympic team. Miss Jenkins, I told you, once we got to Olympic times, then we'll start speaking about the Olympics and some of the runners and field athletes who are a part of the Olympic trials. And Kai Cole is that guy. Ladies and gentlemen, we have an HBCU athlete who will be running in the Olympic trials to be a 100 and a 200 meter sprinter to represent the country. This is a big deal. This is something that we've seen before with North Carolina A&T and I know his name's not Dwayne Ross, but Ross, right? The young Ross, the kid, not the coach, obviously. But we're done with outdoors, right? Like track and field is over. And for many people, now it's just about improving on your time from the previous season. For a lot of people, it's just about what can I do in my next year of collegiate track and field. It's off-season time now. But for Cole, it's not that way. He has a big goal this offseason while everybody else is waiting on next indoor season. He'll be looking to be making the the Olympic team for the USA, and he hit the time. I want to make sure that I go through how the qualifications work, because I think it's important to look at what he needs to do in order to qualify, or what he needed to do. He's done it to qualify for both the 100 and 200. And luckily for me, his time actually gives us 2 separate scenarios in the 2 ways that you can make it. So in between July of last year and June of this year, you have to run a certain time in order to qualify for the Olympic team. At the MEAC championships, Kai Cole was able to run that time for both the 100 and the 200. So when I say he ran the race of his life, we'll really get into that specifically with the 100. But in both of those, he really ran the race of his life in order to be in this position. Because prior to this, he hadn't qualified. He had not ran the time you needed to in order to make the Olympic trials. This is not the Olympic team. This is just the trials to where everything plays out from there. But let's look into it, because they have minimum times and they have automatic qualifier times. Automatic qualifier means that no matter how big the field is, you're good. You're in there. Minimum means basically we might be able to fit you in there. Let's use it as if this room was a thing, right? So for the 100, the minimum time is a 10:2. And then for the automatic, it's a 10:05. And you can get 36 people into that field. Then for the 200, you have the 20.3 for the, or excuse me, 20.3, 0.3 for the minimum, and then, or excuse me, for the automatic. And then for the minimum, you have a 20.6. And there's 35 people who can get into that field. So 35 for the 200, 36 for the 100. If you're an automatic, come on in through the door. We're going to keep filling this room. And once all of my automatic qualifiers are in this room, I'll take the head count. Let's say it's for the 100 is 36. Let's say I have 20 people who hit my automatic qualifier. I'll take the next 16 best times until I get to 36 or until I get to a 10-2. So that's the way that works. For the 100, Cole is an automatic qualifier. For the 200, he's a minimum. So obviously that means that he has a better chance of A, making it into the trials, and then B, actually making it onto the Olympic teams, because that's the better event. That's the one he's the automatic qualifier for. But when I tell you this man ran the races of his life at the MEAC championships, this is not a joke. So he's been doing well all year. Don't get me wrong. He's been winning meets. He's been first place. I think the lowest he placed in the 100 was a second. So he's done what he's needed to do all throughout the season to get the praise. I think he's even won MEAC track and field athlete of the year, athlete of the week a couple of times, if I'm not mistaken. But at MEAC championships, he ran a 10.05, which is exactly the number you need in order to be an automatic qualifier. Let's read what he did prior to that, because I want to emphasize just how much he rose to the occasion. So let's look through starting in April. He ran a 10.35 at Norfolk State's track and field invitational, a 10.27, a 10.27 at Duke Invitational. He ran a 10.48, or excuse me, he ran a 10.34 at first at the Virginia Challenge. Then he slowed it down to a 10.48. Then he had a 10.29 at the Penn Relays. That's just a week before. And then finally you get to the MEAC and he runs a 10.05. Mind you, I'm talking about 10.29 was his best time, or excuse me, 10.27 was his best time. He shaved 20.22 off of his time going into that event. If he can run something like that, then maybe he can make some noise. Now in the 200, this was never exactly his specialty, but he did also run the race of his life, because at the 200 in the MEAC championships, he ran a 20.55. And just to draw these things home, prior to that, he had ran a 20.76. That was his best time. Okay. And he had a good amount of wind on that 20.55. If this was a record, it wouldn't have counted as that because he was about 0.3 above. But overall, you're looking at a guy who ran a 20.87 earlier in the MEAC championships. So when you just put it all together and look at the no pun intended, but the track record of what he's done, he blew out himself. He blew himself out of the water going into that MEAC championship. This was a very impressive victory, or a very impressive race for him. And because of that, Cole went to 9th in the nation in the 100. He was able to be a minimum qualifier for the 200, an automatic qualifier for the 100. At the MEAC championships, just to sum it all the way up, at the MEAC championships, Kai Cole ran 0.22 faster than anything he's ever run in the 100 all year long in the outdoor season. And he also shaved about the same off of his 200. And in both of those, he became an automatic qualifier for the U.S. Olympic team in the 100 and a minimum qualifier for the U.S. team in the 200 for the trials. This was a phenomenal race. He ran the freaking races of his life. Now, as we push forward, maybe the stakes aren't as high, but Bluefield State is your 2024 Black College Football or Black College World Series champions, and we'll explore their path to that and how this is a big deal for them and the World Series as we continue with Locked On HBCU. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is the place for all small business owners. If you have any sort of void on your team, any sort of opening that you need to fill, I immediately suggest that you go to LinkedIn. I've been building my LinkedIn because I understand how these people or where these people are looking, and LinkedIn is the place to go. If you need somebody to have 800 million people, if you're one of the 800 million, they are looking for you. So go ahead and go to LinkedIn. I think that it's a win either way. Small business owner, employee, or potential employee, it's up to you. But for my small business owners, go ahead and post your job for free. There's no risk, all reward. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. You'll get the purple hashtag hiring frame, and you'll be able to reach out to the 800 million people. It's a whole lot of reward and it's free, so I really don't understand the risk. It's all on you from this point moving forward. Be one of the 86% of small businesses who find the right person for their job in less than 24 hours. Go to linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. As we continue rolling on today's episode of Locked On HBCU, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day every day. For your second listen, make sure you're checking out Locked On Sports Today. It's the first of its kind, 24/7, all day, every day, live sports network on YouTube. Is airing now. It's airing now. And it's going to be airing in about 30 minutes from now. It never stops. So let's keep rolling and let's wrap this up so that you can go check out Locked On Sports Today. Bluefield State is your 2024 Black College World Series champions, and they knocked off Talladega College in the championships in order to win their second ever Black College World Series title. And this is the second time in the event's 4 seasons that they've been able to come up with the victory. So if you want to make it sound even more dramatic, because I don't think that sounded dramatic enough, Bluefield State has won half of the Black College World Series ever. And I'm not saying that this is North Carolina A&T with the Celebration Bowl. That's ridiculously high praise. But if they get a couple of more years, you are going to be able to say that Bluefield State is dominating the Black College World Series. Like, you will be able to say that if they come up with another victory. If they're winning every other year, this is going to feel like Big Blue's event. But putting that North Carolina A&T tag on them, to me, is a really high bar. Even though I'm the one who brought it up, it's a high bar. But they're on their way. They're on their way. What the Jefferson say? Moving on up. Come on now. But I want to break down some of the differences in this year's Black College World Series as opposed to last year's Black College World Series. So in last year, you had 8 teams, 4 D2 teams, 4 NAIA teams. And with those 4 teams, they stayed to their people. All the D2s played the D2s. All the NAIAs played the NAIAs. And in that, you had 2 brackets. The winner of each bracket would come together and they would face off. It is very simple. It's very similar as well to the Celebration Bowl. Hey, SWAC, handle your business. MEAC, handle your business. At the end, the 2 people who are the best are going to come together. That's essentially what this was, but with D2 and NAIA. This year was a different ballgame. Instead of 8 teams, you had 6 teams. Instead of 2 brackets, you had 1 bracket. Now, the one thing that was the same is that you still had your double elimination. So last year was double elimination. This year's double elimination. You have to lose 2 times to be out, unless it's in the championship game. And that's kind of what happened to Talladega, where they made it into the Celebration Bowl. Why do you want to say Celebration Bowl? They made it into the championship game. And by making it in the championship game, they didn't have the benefit of double elimination. They lost 1 time, and that's why they were out. No more second chances. So basically, you have a max of 4 games that you could play. You have a max of 4 games you could play. But for them, they only played 3. They won twice in the brackets, and then they lost in the championship game. But yeah, so that was the difference. And I kind of like it to a certain degree. It brings everything together, but I think I am still a little partial to the 4-4. D2 handle your business, NAIA handle your business, come together at the end. Maybe I'm resistant to change. But I kind of prefer that. So your 6 teams this year were Bluefield State, Edward Waters, and Miles on the D2 ranks, and then you have Florida Memorial, Talladega, and Wiley on the NAIA ranks. I can't help but wonder what would have happened with Florida Memorial, but their coach stepped down like right before the Black College World Series. Crazy timing. They ended up getting bounced. They did win 1 game, but they went 1-2 in that time frame. Also, you are sorry, I lost track of myself. In the championship game, you had Talladega College and Bluefield State. So I personally feel like that's what was supposed to happen this whole time. It felt like that's what this was building to. When I did my preview, those were the 2 teams that I really wanted to highlight because I felt like they had accomplished so much in relation to not only just the field, but in relation to their own school. With Talladega, they played a bunch of top 25 teams. They knocked off 3 teams that were in the top 15 nationally on the NAIA ranks. So when you're looking at just challenging yourself and being prepared for moments like this, right? Because if I'm facing the absolute best on my subdivision, I think mentally I'm prepared for the moment to face anybody on the D2 ranks. I'm NAIA and I'm facing the best of the NAIAs. I'm going to be ready to face anybody else on the D2 ranks. Even if they aren't equal, that's how I'm going to feel, because I've already been challenged by the best. Being up against big odds does not really faze me because I've been there before. And you see that because they actually knocked off Bluefield State originally. In the first game that they played each other. Bluefield State was very interesting because they played 4 games. 2 of them against Edward Waters, and then 2 of them were against Talladega College. So I just thought that was kind of cool that they just played the same teams twice throughout their Black College World Series run. So against Edward Waters, it was 12-7, and then it was 9-7. So they let up a good amount of runs, but they also had the bats going overtime. Like, they had the bats working overtime, and those are really good. Like, matter of fact, the 12-run game, the 12-7, was right after they lost to Talladega, and their season was on the line. Mind you, it's double elimination. But once you lose one time, now it's lose and go home. So once you have that pressure on you, you drive in 12 runs, which is the most that you had this entire series, right? Or this World Series. Then you come back and you face Talladega, and it's a tight contest. It's a very tight contest because the first time it was 3-2. So you barely lost in that game. This time it's 5-1. You spread it out. Then you get a little bit more room in order to maneuver. So I think that this is a good one. This was a really good Black College World Series. And for Bluefield, it completes what is an elite regular season, right? Because you won 25 games in 2023. Then this year, you won 30, both of which are the 2 highest in school history. So you kind of made up for last year breaking a school record and then not winning it all. This year, you have the most victories. When you're looking at Bluefield State baseball, they have the most victories in school history in a single season this year, topping last year's school record of 25. They now have 30. And now you complement that with your second Black College World Series. You've won half of these things. There's been 4 and you've won 2. Bluefield State, I ain't gonna say it belonged to them just yet. They were the inaugural champions. They're the most recent champions, and they have the most championships, the first one to ever have multiple. We'll see. But as we push forward, we'll see is kind of the motto of every single HBCU prospect. We had no draftees. So let's break down UDFA versus camp invites and why rookie mini camp is one of the biggest moments specifically for our camp invites. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, and FanDuel is the official sports book of the Locked On Podcast Network. The NBA playoffs are on and rolling. Let's see, I have the score pulled up for this Timberwolves Nuggets game. It's 96-85 with about 9.5 left. So by the time you hear this, you'll know what the final is. But I want to see if the Timberwolves can fight back, go up 3-1, if the Nuggets are going to tie it up 2-2. There's a lot of things to look at here, but I want to know what the money's talking about. By the time you hear this, what you think is going to happen with Kai and Luka versus Shane and Jalen Williamses, huh? Because the Western Conference is shaping up to be extremely fun. I'm not as interested in the East, to be honest, though the Pacers blew out the Knicks today. It's so many. The NBA basketball, the playoffs are here, y'all. The playoffs are here, so it's on you. I'm talking about I'm not interested. Pacers, Knicks, they got some interesting things going on. Timberwolves, Nuggets, they got some interesting things going on. The Thunder versus the Mavs, they got some interesting things going on because I think the Mavs might be able to steal it. Then you have the freaking Celtics and the Cavs. My friend C thinks they're going 6. Put your money where your mouth is. Go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to make every moment more. As we wrap up today's episode of Locked On HBCU, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day every day, making it all the way to segment 3, and I thank you 2 times for that. Obviously, you've heard the intro. I am a contributing writer for USA Today's Saints Wire, which means I'm breaking down the New Orleans Saints on a daily basis, and our rookie mini camp just recently began over the weekend. So I thought, you know what, why not come on here and just kind of speak about what rookie mini camp means to our HBCU prospects. Cover your ears for 5 seconds if you don't want to hear this, but we didn't have any HBCU prospects get drafted this year. Hopefully I didn't take more than 5 seconds. If you're watching, thumbs up. You're good now. We didn't have much success, y'all, but that's okay because you don't have to be drafted to make the league. And I seen, I think, a number that said about 30% of all NFL rosters are UDFAs. But we have UDFAs and we have camp invites. Let's break down some of the important differences. Number one, camp invites do not have a contract. UDFAs do. UDFAs are higher on the priority list than a camp invite is. If it's even, the UDFA is probably going to get picked up to go into preseason, go into camp. The camp invite probably is not. Being a UDFA does not promise you anything, but it does kind of, like people say, oh, once you get on the field, it's all even. Not really. It gives you a chance to even it out, but there's a reason that guy got a contract and you got an invite, because the coaches look at you a certain kind of way. Now, it's your opportunity to dispel that notion in their head, but trust and believe, when you step on the field, they have a preconceived notion of who's going to be the better player. It's just about you proving that preconceived notion to not be correct. All right, so let's just be very clear. For example, Isaiah Major, FAMU linebacker. He is a camp invite for the New Orleans Saints. Dalen Holker is the most, I think he has the most guaranteed money of any UDFA. That's the way that they kind of look at the UDFAs, who's higher on the priority list. Who got more money? Who got more money in that, huh? So that's just something to look at. But speaking of Isaiah Major, Isaiah Major did a lot of things that I liked. I've been hearing about this. So somebody asked about Isaiah Major on the show, and it was a Saints show. And one of the guys was like, I don't really remember anybody's names. Mind you, it's very early. It's only the second day of rookie minicamp. So not knowing guys' names, not a big deal. He said, I don't really know Major. I don't really remember him. All I know is 52 was doing this, that, and the third. Then his co-host was like, hey, 52 is Major. So 52 was the only memorable linebacker from rookie minicamps. That happened to be Isaiah Major. He was out there speaking a lot. He was out there communicating. He was calling out the plays. He was showing traits of leadership. He was showing things that I think will lead to you saying, I can work with that. I can develop that. We're just trying to get into training camp at this point. As a camp invite, you're just trying to get into training camp. If you can work your way into a contract, then you're good. Major also was a big participant on special teams, being a blocker. If I'm a camp invite, if I'm a UD, whatever, if I'm in rookie mini camps and I'm not a high draft pick, I'm doing everything I can, because this is going to be the most reps that I get the entire offseason. That once the veterans come in, I'm going to have my reps chopped significantly. So when it's just the rookies, I have to take advantage. I have to do something that says, okay, put him. Let's put him in. Let's see what he's working with. First off, if I'm a camp invite, I'm just trying to get to camp. If I'm a UDFA, I want to get noticed. I want to at least be a special team guy, and then we can see where it works from there. Okay, that's the way that I'm really looking at it. So Isaiah Major, in my opinion, is done enough. If you want to know how this is going to work, it'll be on UDFAs and some of these websites to let me know if they're catching my eye, or not to let me know, but for them to catch my eye in that, because a lot of times I'm not checking at all 32. I'm checking heavily on the Saints. I got a lot of coverage to do for them, and I'll be able to check probably my premier guys. I might check over in New England, see how Mikey Victor's doing. I already have Major with the Saints, so if Major does something, I'll be able to come back and tell you. But for the most part, it's gonna be, I don't know how often we're gonna have mini camp updates. Maybe if you tell me so-and-so is doing well, maybe if you ask me how so-and-so is doing, I can go look at it, and if there's something to be said about them, I'll do it. So I guess this is my little segment 3. Y'all my people, I love y'all. If there's somebody you want to hear me talk about that's in the league, let me know, and I'll look it up. And there's something to say, I'll say it. If there's not, then I won't. But for the most part, or if you just see somebody who's balling, you've heard about it, let me know. So hit me on Twitter, @SouthExclusive. Send me the interview, seen it on, send me the article. Y'all know I'm going to check in with y'all. So I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day every day. On tomorrow's episode, we'll be looking at Davius Richard. He does not have a team, and I overlooked a big reason on why, but it started to make sense once I went back and thought about it. So that'll be tomorrow's episode, and I appreciate you for making this your first listen. Until tomorrow, till next time we hear each other, family. Take care. Stay blessed. Peace.